Last year, during my first proper New England winter, me and my little cousin built a Quincy. It was barely tall enough to sit up in, but it was fun, and it took a lot of effort. It was the type of thing I thought, hey, this could be my thing with these little kids, with all my young cousins. I could be the guy who does a cool, interesting snow structure every year. So I'm like, okay, next year, I gotta step up my game. I gotta do something even cooler. I'd seen something online about a guy who built an igloo out of iced bricks he made from 2-quart cartons, the kind that orange juice or milk comes in. He dropped food coloring in them and used them as molds and made this beautiful, striking, multicolored igloo. It was huge and it was just fantastic. I really liked his concept. I liked that final product, so I decided I'm going to do that. So I changed my grocery shopping habits. I stopped buying anything that didn't come in one of those paper wax-lined 2-quart cartons. I basically spent all year drinking almond milk and grapefruit juice. Additionally, I would regularly poke through the dumpsters in my apartment complex. I could pretty reliably get 1 or 2 that way. It must have been around June when I'd collected only a few dozen, and I realized I'm never going to make my goal at this rate. So I started driving around town and diving other dumpsters, and I hit the jackpot at a Dunkin' right down the street. They go through probably 20 or 30 cartons a day, and after a few days of pulling bags out and separating the trash from the cartons and wiping the slime off of, I realized I can probably just ask the manager for this stuff and not have to feel like I'm stealing it. So I do, and sure enough, they're like, yeah, man, you can have our trash. Sure. You weirdo. So I made a nightly walk out of going down to the Dunkin' and collecting all the cartons they had set out for me, bringing them back to my apartment, and then rinsing them out and storing them. I'm constantly relearning that I can be incredibly motivated by short-term, tangible goals. And I like the idea of taking something more seriously than anything else would, but still not seriously enough to alter the main premise and make it a little less silly. Like, why use milk cartons? Why not just buy a few generic bins, pack them with snow, make snow bricks that way, and then build an actual igloo? And I don't really have a good answer. It's more just that I saw someone already did this. I liked the style of the final product and I wanted to emulate that. I like the look of brick and mortar, and I really like repurposing trash. The temperature didn't get cold enough until early January, but when it did, I packed up all the cartons, all 600 or so, into my truck, and I hit the road and drove north up to my cousin's. I pretty seriously underestimated how much labor and effort it would take just to get everything set up on the first night. I had to remove them all from my truck, chop all the tops off, get them staged, get them filled up with water, color every 4th or 5th one or so. Probably took 4 or 5 hours. So, today was a total false start. Stupidly, we nuzzled them down into the snow, which I guess insulates the water and prevents it from freezing. So we only had about 1 inch to 2 inches of ice on the top of every carton this morning, and I figured I would just kind of composite the rest together with the slush mixture, but obviously it didn't work. Didn't work at all. Now all of the cartons are packed back into the garage, still half frozen. So a lot of lessons learned today. I spent most of the day pretty frustrated and trying not to show it. So we're going to try it again another day. So these cartons are just sitting in my aunt's garage for weeks, and we're well into February now, and the weather is only getting warmer. I'm looking for another opportunity, another time window, but it has to line up with my school, my work, their work, and of course the weather. But we finally get a date nailed down in February. It was going to be a cold night, like 18 degrees or something like that, and I get all my homework done ahead of time. I budget that weekend for myself. And the day rolls around. I'm really excited. I get back in my car, I drive up. It's time for attempt number 2. As I'm on the road on my way up going north through Massachusetts, I'm noticing there's no snow anywhere, and it's making me really concerned. I do see some berms here and there from where the plows have gone and created big piles that seem to be melting down, but not entirely. And I figure, okay, hopefully there's some of those. That seems to be my only bet. So once again, I arrive, I stage, I do all the prep work for the cartons, and I go to bed that night, hoping I'm waking up to ice bricks in the morning. The next morning, I woke to mostly frozen bricks. There was a little bit of snow. I harvested as best I could. I tried to make a slush with it, but without something to keep it constantly moving like a cement mixer would, it locked up in minutes. Without mortar, the slippery bricks wouldn't stack, and yeah, failed attempt number 2. Now, the weather was only getting warmer, and I wasn't going to try and stow all this trash in my aunt's garage any longer, so I got to cleaning up. I had to slice all the cartons off of away from the bricks, compile all the trash, and get rid of it. It took a few hours. While I'm doing so, I'm unpacking the last year's worth of effort. I'm thinking about all of the late night walks to Dunkin's, all of the hours spent laying in my bed, staring at the ceiling before I fall asleep, kind of manipulating this 3D model. Less than 48 hours later, this big pile of ice bricks had completely melted. So best case scenario, an igloo would have stood for maybe a day. And it was weird to see an entire year's worth of effort reduced to nothing so quickly, but it didn't really bother me, because the value of this whole project ended up being the process. Every time I collected a carton, I felt like I was making progress towards something. And maybe that's the real value of short-term goals, is something that you can just slowly trudge toward continually every single day so that progress is inevitable, no matter how small. And this whole failure of a project was still a step in the right direction, because I learned a bunch of lessons. I made a bunch of process and organization-based mistakes, things I won't do again next year. I'm going to stage better. I'm going to plan better. Probably not going to do milk cartons again next year, honestly. It was so much work, it probably wasn't worth it. I'm just going to do the bin thing. Literally whatever I do will be an improvement, because it can't get any worse than not existing at all. Twice.